Hello, and thanks for joining us. I'm Sherry Jones. While women make up half the population, and one of them even runs our state, the accomplishments and recognitions of women in our area and across America often goes unrecognized. And that's why we're proud to tell you about some of the remarkable women who make Mid-Michigan a better place to live. We start with a woman from Lansing who completely transformed her life. She went from being a high school dropout to a local business owner. And now she mentors students at the very school she walked away from. Sarah Alsheh has the story of a very remarkable woman.
It's been 10 years since Anastasia Trevino walked these halls of Sexton High School as a student. Now she walks them as a mentor.
Okay, now just tilt this way.
She works as a student support coordinator for Communities in Schools, a nonprofit that helps students succeed in the classroom, something Anastasia struggled with growing up.
I was definitely troubled. I had a lot of different things that I was trying to balance in high school.
Anastasia dropped out of Sexton her senior year. She says she didn't have the easiest childhood.
5936, right there. That's the one that we was in the most.
By the age of 18, she had already lived in 10 different homes.
This is it right here, this little space. Yeah. And that was the smallest little baby room ever.
Anastasia says she was constantly kicked out of school.
There was a time where I ended up getting into a different fight and I got arrested right there. I was confused and probably angry.
Her family ended up homeless. Anastasia moved to Chicago to stay with her aunt and finish high school. When she came back to Lansing, she focused more on her passion for hair. After years of building up her clientele, in the middle of the pandemic, Anastasia started her own salon and spa business, Bella Vita.
That's what Bella Vita means in Italian, beautiful life.
Anastasia went from being homeless at several points in her life to being a first-generation business owner. She says her business was one of the biggest accomplishments of her life, but Anastasia was still looking for something more. So she returned to the school she left and now works with students at Sexton, providing a safe space to check in.
If I needed something, I know she has my back. That's my mom, my school mom.
Giving academic support when needed and making sure they have basic needs.
Clothes, coats, food, hats, shoes. We keep that stuff stocked up.
Hanging on her classroom wall, the words grind, hustle, and execution. Words Anastasia instills in her students because they're words she's lived by. Anastasia didn't have a traditional upbringing, but she's grateful it brought her to where she is.
Coming from that, the homelessness and all the things that I went through in between, being here now, I felt like it was purposeful.
And now that she's here, she says she wouldn't change one bit of her story.
I love who I've grown into, and all of the lessons I've learned in these journeys definitely has shown me more and more like my true self.
Here for you in Lansing, Sarah Alsheh, 6 News.
Thank you, Sarah. Our next story is about a woman who defines the word service. She serves her family and she serves her patients. But her service doesn't end there. Lauren Thompson takes us to Jackson to meet yet another remarkable woman.
She's a wife, a mother, and a nurse.
It's been such a rewarding career. You know, I get to help people every day, and I've done a lot of different types of nursing. I worked about 9 years in ICU and almost 6 years in hospice.
Healthcare's something that runs in her family.
I have 2 grandmas who are nurses. I have an aunt who's a nurse. My mom's a radiation therapist. My aunt and uncle are dosimetrists. A lot of medical background in my family.
Her family ties and the inspiration she takes from it clearly run deep.
I have a lot of good role models in my family. I have strong leaders who just work through everything. So my grandparents, my parents, my aunts and uncles, everyone that surrounded me was always striving to achieve more.
And doing more is exactly what you and Boyd did when, on top of everything else, she joined the U.S. military.
My grandpa was in World War II. He was drafted into the Army at 17. He's the coolest person I know, so I kind of always thought maybe I'd like to be in the military too.
She enlisted just 2 days before her 35th birthday back in 2015.
That's about as old as you can be if you're enlisting into the Army Reserves.
But unlike her grandpa, Ewan was already a mother of 2 young girls when she decided to serve our country. Her husband says leaving her daughters behind was the bravest part of it all, knowing Ewan was worried every single day she spent away.
You do have to be willing to sacrifice a little bit to achieve your goals. So if that means missing some time with your family to serve a greater purpose.
And while she isn't active duty anymore, Ewan still serves in the Independent Ready Reserves and could be deployed at any time. But now that she's earned her master's in nursing, she'd like to see her work with the military take a new turn in the future.
I would like to work with veterans, see if I can be of some service to them, because they have been of service to us. You know, they sacrificed everything for our country. You see the wounded warriors who have, you know, no legs and one arm, and they're running marathons somehow. You know, that kind of stuff. It's just, those are the true heroes and the true inspirational people. If people like that can still be productive and thrive in society and life, and all the rest of us can too.
Absolutely. Well, coming up in our special on Remarkable Women, we'll introduce you to another nurse and show you why there's more to her than her job description when our tribute to Mid-Michigan's Remarkable Women returns.
This is 6 News Now, here for you 24 hours a day, online at WLNS.com.
The FDA approved an additional COVID-19 booster for people 50 and older, and this brings the total number of vaccine shots for each individual up to 4. Officials say the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for this age group should be taken at least 4 months after the last booster. Now, previously, the FDA had only cleared 4 doses for people 12 and older who have severely weakened immune systems. Despite COVID-19 cases dropping drastically, the CDC still suggests beginning the vaccines, which prevent severe disease and death. Around 2/3 of Americans are fully vaccinated, while half of booster-eligible people haven't received 1 shot.
Looking for a different kind of lunch break? Check out the Daily Digital Debrief, weekdays at 12:30 on WLNS.com and on the 6 News app. It's a little bit of news, a little bit of weather, a little bit extra.
Introducing our new redesigned 6 News mobile app. Our new app features a sleek modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content, and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with one tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video, and a red light alert badge notifies you when we're streaming. Download or update our new local news app today. 6 News, here for you.
Welcome back. Our next remarkable woman is from the tiny town of Leslie. She spent her entire career working in the medical field, but now she volunteers. Kira Lake tells us why she says when it comes to helping others, there's no end in sight.
I've had a blessed life and enjoyed everything I've done.
Virginia Hannas was a licensed nurse for more than 50 years, following in her mother's footsteps.
I was so proud of her and so wanted to be like my mom, and so that's why I went into nursing.
And her experience made her the go-to person in her family and friend circles, as well as for hundreds of people she taught CPR and first aid to.
My dad always says, "You're going to be a teacher," and I said, "No, I'm going to be a nurse." Then I got to do both. So that was fun.
And when she wasn't in the hospital, Virginia spent time as an amateur radio operator with her husband, Jim.
He was involved with it before I was, and then I kept seeing all the neat things that he and his organizations were doing.
One of the biggest events they helped with is the annual Silver Bells in the City Parade. She also has dedicated more than 30 years as a medical care coordinator for the Michigan Special Olympics, state poly hockey, and bowling tournament athletes.
We always say every year we gain so much more from the athletes than we give them. It's just so rewarding.
And even with everything she does to give back to the community,
I was totally shocked. and honored.
She says after finding out she was nominated for this award.
And felt very not worthy, I think, sometimes. Because I always say that most women are remarkable women who have children and husbands and work or whatever they do. It's always, I think most women are remarkable.
But her husband Jim thinks otherwise. He believes she is more than deserving.
Actually, when I proposed to her, my mother said, you know how mother says, the girl's not good enough? Nope. I'm not good enough for her.
And her dedication to the community has no end in sight. Recently, she was having constant headaches and was diagnosed with a brain tumor, and a day later, a brain aneurysm. But she wasn't worried.
She had no problem thinking everything was going to come out perfect. And I question sometimes because I just know what happens.
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard being the patient. I always want to be the one that is there supporting the patient, not me being the patient.
This diagnosis still hasn't slowed her down, and through religion, she's been able to continue doing all this work.
I think if everybody treated each other as if how they wanted to be treated, the world would be a much better place.
Here for you in Lansing, Kira Lake, 6 News.
So true. When we come back, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. That's right. We're going to reintroduce you to people we've profiled in the past, starting with a woman who is lucky to be alive. That's when Remarkable Women continues.
This is 6 News Now, here for you 24 hours a day, online at WLNS.com.
The FDA approved an additional COVID-19 booster for people 50 and older, and this brings the total number of vaccine shots for each individual up to 4. Officials say the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for this age group should be taken at least 4 months after the last booster. Now, previously, the FDA had only cleared 4 doses for people 12 and older who have severely weakened immune systems. Despite COVID-19 cases dropping drastically, the CDC still suggests beginning the vaccines, which prevent severe disease and death. Around 2/3 of Americans are fully vaccinated, while half of booster-eligible people haven't received 1 shot.
Looking for a different kind of lunch break? Check out the Daily Digital Debrief, weekdays at 12:30 on WLNS.com and on the 6 News app. It's a little bit of news, a little bit of weather, a little bit extra.
Introducing our new redesigned 6 News mobile app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content, and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with 1 tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video, and a red light alert badge notifies you when we're streaming. Download or update our new local news app today. 6 News, here for you.
The story of our next remarkable woman almost didn't happen. That's because she almost didn't live to have it told. But the winner of our Remarkable Woman contest in 2020 did survive. And Siobhan Klepfer tells us how she made the most of her second chance.
My life I love, let me keep it I pray. To lose my hair is a very small price to pay.
In 1998, on her way to work one day, 34-year-old Cynthia Ritchie collapsed.
For the next 11 days, she was fighting for herself, and I had no clue what was going on.
Her organs were failing. When she came to, doctors said her life on Earth was likely over.
And immediately my mind went to afterlife and who I would see in heaven when I got there.
It was stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. With expectations that Cindy would soon pass away, doctors asked her husband Tom if he'd sign off on a trial drug. But first, they wanted to know, does she have faith and is she a fighter?
And he said yes to both.
For 6 months, Cindy's hope, her husband, and her church community helped get her through. And then, a miracle.
The doctor was astonished that when they ran me through the gallium scan that there was no sign of cancer. I'm bald now, a sight to see, less of it and more of me. One of the things that helped me get through a lot of the almost like a post-traumatic stress syndrome of after chemotherapy was to write.
She wrote about trusting in the Lord, losing her hair, the pain of chemo, and the heartbreak of learning that because of the treatment, her body would never bear children. A friend published those poems, and Cindy's book is now helping cancer fighters in hospitals in mid-Michigan and all over the country.
I have seen a lot of folks who have had hope because of it, and that was the very intention of writing it. They carried him to the house. It was still too crowded.
Writing is just one of Cindy's gifts, and she decided to use her second chance to do even more for others.
Her real love was to work in the ministry.
Leaving a lucrative job as a business broker and putting those skills to use at the Mason First Church of the Nazarene. She helped develop and create the Recreational Outreach Center, known as The Rock, opening the doors for hundreds of children from multiple area churches to play sports, get help with homework, and more. Because for Cindy, it's also an opportunity to reach and inspire children, something she and Tom once thought was out of reach.
To encourage a child and to create within them knowing their value, to me, is an investment in eternity. I'll soon recover and hair will sprout. Was the fight worth it? There is no doubt.
With this remarkable woman here for you in Mason, Siobhan Klepfer, 6 News.
Thanks, Siobhan. Just ahead, Cynthia was our remarkable woman in 2020, but when we come back, we're going to reintroduce you to all of last year's honorees. Stay tuned. Remarkable Women. We'll be right back.
This is 6 News Now, here for you 24 hours a day, online at WLNS.com.
The FDA approved an additional COVID-19 booster for people 50 and older, and this brings the total number of vaccine shots for each individual up to 4. Officials say the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for this age group should be taken at least 4 months after the last booster. Now, previously, the FDA had only cleared 4 doses for people 12 and older who have severely weakened immune systems. Despite COVID-19 cases dropping drastically, the CDC still suggests beginning the vaccines, which prevent severe disease and death. Around 2/3 of Americans are fully vaccinated, while half of booster-eligible people haven't received one shot.
Looking for a different kind of lunch break? Check out the Daily Digital Debrief, weekdays at 12:30 on WLNS.com and on the 6 News app. It's a little bit of news, a little bit of weather, a little bit extra.
Introducing our new redesigned 6 News mobile app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content, and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with one tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video, and a red light alert badge notifies you when we're streaming. Download or update our new local news app today. 6 News, here for you.
Each year on this station, we spend the month of March profiling Mid-Michigan women. It's how we celebrate Women's History Month, honoring people who make a difference. Here's a look at some of the women we paid tribute to last year. First is Lisney Tate. She's the executive director of Helping Women Period, a nonprofit that delivers thousands of tampons, pads, and other feminine products to women in 6 mid-Michigan counties. She also started a special Facebook page, Not Your Mother's Networking Group, and she has more than 20,000 members in Greater Lansing. It connects them to whatever they need, from a haircut to a job. And then there's Joellen Elena, better known as the Kindness Lady. In the spring of 2020, the Grand Ledge woman put up a sign that said, "Choose kindness," and that message spread quickly. She used her own money to print more signs, and soon there were thousands across the state. Now there's clothing, bumper stickers, journals, and even decorated rocks. While she spent her own money on many of these signs, Elena says the reward has been priceless. And then there's Tamalika Foster. Her journey also started with an act of kindness. The McLaren nurse put together care packages for some 800 of her co-workers during the pandemic. But Foster didn't stop there. She also fights violence and racism. She's led rallies at the state capitol and even spoken to the Proud Boys, doing whatever she can to make Michigan a kinder, better, and safer place to live. And then there is last year's winner. Her name is Kristen Lucas. She changed countless lives over more than 4 decades of volunteering. And she didn't do just that by joining groups, she founded them. Here's her remarkable story.
Kristen Lucas is the coordinator of King's Covered Food Pantry at Trinity Lutheran Church in Hillsdale. She's been volunteering in her community for decades, helping to improve the lives of countless Hillsdale County residents.
This is me talking. I think I'm in the background there.
Her journey into volunteerism started 42 years ago when she vividly remembers getting a phone call that totally changed her life.
A woman from the local mental health agency was calling, and she said they were looking for someone to start a committee to try to do something about spouse abuse. And I had been recommended to her by another person. And I was really stunned because this was totally outside of my life experience.
But that didn't deter Kristen. Instead, through her leadership, she rallied those around her and created a program offering a 24-hour crisis hotline and temporary housing. It was so successful, the state helped fund it. And soon, Kristen opened an office and hired a small paid staff. Her vision took root and grew into what is now Domestic Harmony, a shelter for domestic violence victims.
At least when they are there, they're not getting beaten and they're not getting killed. Even if it's just for a night or 2 nights, which some people will do, it may keep them alive. And the more I met, the more women we worked with, the more it became clear that this was an issue that needed a whole lot of work. Not just a shelter, it needed changes in law enforcement, which we were able to bring about in those 19 years when I was the executive director of Domestic Harmony.
Kristen also saw a need to empower young girls. During the 1990s, she started Girls 2. This one-day event encouraged middle school girls to study math and sciences to prepare them for college and their future careers. In the span of 12 years, the program reached more than 1,800 girls throughout Hillsdale County. In 2001, Kristen took her passions overseas, traveling to Bratislava, Slovakia, where she taught English as a second language in a Lutheran high school.
This is one of my classes. I'm over here.
Something she had always dreamed of.
Sometimes had to get up before dawn to get to the first class. I had to ride a bus across the Danube River to the school, and I'm still in contact with some of those students. It's almost 20 years later.
A year later and back home, Kristen began serving on the board of St. Peter's Free Clinic in Hillsdale. Eventually, she became the board chair. The need for healthcare was so great that she organized the clinic's biggest annual fundraiser.
They were seeing 60, 70 individuals every Tuesday night at this free clinic. And they had volunteer doctors, volunteer pharmacists, volunteer nurses.
Kristen also stepped up when she saw seniors struggling with their income taxes. Now she's one of several volunteers who helps prepare hundreds of tax returns for low-income Hillsdale County residents. As you can see, her volunteer portfolio is diverse, but she has a philosophy about that.
With volunteering, a real win-win is when what you need to have done can be matched with someone who really likes doing that. And can I be the one to do it?
We do have a sad footnote to pass along. Kristen Lucas died just a few months after we first aired her story, but the lives she changed will always be part of her legacy. When we come back, we'll introduce you to this year's winner. Don't go away.
This is 6 News Now, here for you 24 hours a day, online at WLNS.com.
The FDA approved an additional COVID-19 booster for people 50 and older. and this brings the total number of vaccine shots for each individual up to 4. Officials say the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for this age group should be taken at least 4 months after the last booster. Now, previously, the FDA had only cleared 4 doses for people 12 and older who have severely weakened immune systems. Despite COVID-19 cases dropping drastically, the CDC still suggests beginning the vaccines, which prevent severe disease and death. Around 2/3 of Americans are fully vaccinated, while half of booster-eligible people haven't received 1 shot.
Looking for a different kind of lunch break? Check out the Daily Digital Debrief, weekdays at 12:30 on WLNS.com and on the 6 News app. It's a little bit of news, a little bit of weather, a little bit extra.
Introducing our new redesigned 6 News mobile app. Our new app features a sleek, modern design, an easy-to-navigate home screen with quick access to local news content, and a localized weather forecast. Subscribing to notifications is easier, and with 1 tap, you have access to recent push notifications. There are more ways to watch and find video, and a red light alert badge notifies you when we're streaming. Download or update our new local news app today. 6 News, here for you.
And finally, the winner of this year's Remarkable Women series, a woman who has worn many hats in her effort to protect the most vulnerable.
Meet the multi-talented and remarkable Jan Bidwell. She's a mother, an author, a bass player, an ordained minister, and the Lansing Police Department's first and only social worker, a position she's held for 3 years amidst a 40-year career that she's always been passionate about. Even with decades of knowledge and training, Jan says nothing could have prepared her for the trauma she saw day in and day out as LPD's social worker.
I've seen things that I never could have imagined before, and I've worked in tough areas and tough populations. But we have no services for them. We have nothing for them. They shuttle in between law enforcement and community mental health. It's a tremendous amount of suffering that you're watching, and you do the best you can.
It was her job to talk with the citizens of Lansing who came into contact with law enforcement about their problems, including homelessness, substance addiction, mental illness, and trauma. Oftentimes, she would go to hospitals, jail, people's homes, and onto the streets to interact with the homeless.
Parts of my childhood were very difficult, were very painful, and people helped me through, right? So I feel an obligation to help people as well.
Jen also makes serving her community a priority. She volunteers on the Ingham County Opioid Abuse Prevention Initiative, the Ingham County Board of Health, and the Lansing Mayor's Mental Health Task Force.
I know people, I've worked with people over time who had nothing to feel grateful about, and they were very unhappy. So I'm grateful internally that I'm able to feel a sense of gratitude for all the gifts, because I've been given tremendous gifts in my life. To be a part of the solution, to be a part of the answer in any community that I'm in really lifts me up.
Jan's husband, James, says she's a role model for anyone considering a career in social work. So when asked what advice she would have for a younger version of herself,
you're good enough. Your desire to do the next right thing is enough. That's the best for you right now. And if you don't succeed at that, then you know that that's not your path. It'll lead you somewhere else. I think as women sometimes we think we have to live up to an outer standard that's just unrealistic. We all have strengths. Look at yourself and honor that strength in you, and then feel grateful for it. It's a blessing.
Congratulations, Jan, and to all our remarkable women out there. We hope the women we've introduced you to will inspire the remarkable women of the future.
this is 6 News Now, here for you 24 hours a day, online at WLNS.com.
The FDA approved an additional COVID-19 booster for people 50 and older, and this brings the total number of vaccine shots for each individual up to 4. Officials say the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines for this age group should be taken at least 4 months after the last booster. Now, previously, the FDA had